On today's episode of the Track Day Civic build, we do a major upgrade, and that is camshafts and an exhaust system.
Just to recap for you what we got done on day one, we put in our 3.5-inch K-tuned intake system. We found in some testing that we did on the AS2000 that a larger diameter intake really did make quite a bit of power. So other than that, we swapped in a whole new K-tuned harness, getting it ready to plug in our K-Pro ECU. I must say the harness is super clean, super easy to install. The wiring, the whole engine bay just looks cleaner with this in there. So stoked on that. What else did we do, Peter?
The porting.
Oh, the porting. It's because I went and got lunch while you were porting.
Yeah,
so I
that's right.
Yeah, Peter port matched the throttle body or the intake manifold to this 72 mil throttle body. Lots of aluminum chips were flying. We did a great job on that.
So I think the intake side is good to go.
It is good to go.
I'm confident we've got the airflow going in now.
Yeah. Time for another corn on cob meal, Peter. This is one of our Drag Cartel drop-in camshafts, or DICs as they call them. I won't sound that word out for you, Peter, because it's just not right. Anyway, the beauty of these is that they're a drop-in cam, meaning you don't need to upgrade your valve train. No need for different valve springs or retainers or valves, so drop them in and make power, which is appealing to guys like us. We've never swapped cams on a K motor before, have we?
No, so we're gonna let Rui do the hard work, but I'm gonna start off. We got taking things apart first.
Right, Coach Rui will come in and help us, but let's start with popping off that nostalgic blue valve cover of yours, Peter. That takes you back to the good old days.
So the first step to removing camshafts is to remove the valve cover. Taking all the bolts off the harness and all that jazz, and it looks like our gasket is staying on the car. Forget that.
It's happy there, is it? All right.
So next step here is to remove the timing chain tensioner cover, and then we can get at the actual tensioner, but we're gonna have to set the car to top dead center before we do anything else. Now you probably can't see this very well, but Dave, point to the lower mark on the crankshaft, or crank pulley there, and there's a timing mark on the actual cover. So those two need to line up there, as well as the cams up top. There you go. So we heard the tension come off the cams a little bit.
Yeah.
There it is.
So next step, we're gonna remove the cam caps.
I want to give Dave a shot at it, see if he can twirl that bad boy up.
Put me in, Coach. Put me in. All right, it's my turn to twirl. All right, that's it.
What's the
there you go, there you go, there you go, there you go, yeah!
Egg beater. There you go.
Yeah.
I was gonna say we needed some tips and tricks, but you got her done.
A lot of us use this bungee to keep the chain from having too much slack on the bottom, which will make it skip timing on the bottom chain. This is the best way to do it.
All right, and where do you attach that to?
And then any hole on the hood kind of thing. They're all numbered, so obviously
you can't screw them up.
Can't really screw them up,
you should still put them in order.
Put them in order, exactly.
Yeah. So you don't actually leave the cam gear.
No, there's some people do, whatever. I tend not to do that way.
Okay.
I rather do it the old school way, pull everything out and, do everything manually on the floor.
Right, I got you.
So next step is to remove the cam gears and the cam triggers.
Look at the setup
I've always been taught not to use an impact on this stuff. So I do it manually on the floor like this to all of them, especially on the intake side because it's a VTC gear.
Yeah.
And you really don't want to put force into it so you don't mangle the vanes on the inside of the gear.
Well, I like the technique.
So let's
I'm sure
crack
this is
it
going to
loose.
work well.
There you go. That one's done.
That's it.
The torque spec for the intake side, which is a VTC gear, is 80 foot-pounds. And then on our exhaust cam, which is a smaller bolt, which is only 50 pounds. The cam triggers in the back are both 8mm Allen key, which are 35 foot-pounds. We try normally to line up both marks as close as
Yeah.
possible so you don't have to play around with them too much.
Because arguably this is more difficult than removing it, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Especially having to play with this chain right now.
Exactly, because you got to make sure you don't want to make the chain skip on the bottom
Yeah.
also. So,
Yep,
and then
yep,
there's more work for us that we really don't want to have, obviously. Next step is putting the cam caps back on. We have inch pounds over here, which normally foot pounds will be 16 foot pounds. So we'll go little by little from center to outer. Next step is to lock the cams so we can go to the final steps on doing the rest of the job. So cams are locked now. We gotta check the timing on the crank again and put the tensioner in. Pull the thumbtack out and put nice tension on the chain. It's that
Beauty.
easy.
We should also mention that we did use a brand new OEM tensioner and we're swapping something else out.
And now, since we got this old timing chain tensioner cover which uses silicone,
Yeah, it's grungy.
all grungy, we got this obviously super cool K20 one.
Of course.
Billet. Best thing about it is, in the back side of it, there's an O-ring seal, so no more use for ultra gray or any kind of silicone. Next step is we'll rotate the motor a couple of times to make sure it is on timing 100%. And then we can obviously put the valve cover back in and close it all up. And there you go. You kind of heard that, which is the tensioner pretty much putting 100% tension on the guide, so it doesn't let the chain skip, obviously.
With the cams in, now comes the fun part that I didn't think we were gonna have to do, but we
Yep.
do. And that is valve
Valve
lash adjustment, right?
Drag Cartel obviously recommends 8 on the intake, 9 on the exhaust, and we'll get it done. We'll obviously rotate the motor to put the cam lobe on the upright position. So there's, you can see there's a little bit of no tension at all on the spring, and that's how we adjust them. We'll normally put the feeler gauge in. As you can see, it's a little too tight for the specs for Drag Cartel. So what we'll do is use our fancy
Oh yeah.
blue point tool to get it loose. And then as you can see there, there's a flathead screwdriver in the middle of the tool. We'll slightly loosen it, put in our feeler gauge. I normally like to have, they tend to have a little bit of drag. I go a little tighter than usual, just as a preference, and then obviously you gotta hold the flathead screwdriver and tighten the 10 mil, and hopefully the screwdriver itself doesn't move so it doesn't put more tension than it should have. And the first one is good.
So now you're gonna just do this another too many times and we're gonna
And
cut to
we're-
you being done.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, before we get to work on the exhaust system, we've got a little bit of wiring left to do. This is the K-tuned EK specific conversion harness. This is basically the guy that lets the engine talk to the chassis. So this plugs into your ECU and sends all that good stuff to the dash and to your OBD2 ports and all that kind of stuff. So we need to wire this in. And we've also gone to, as you know, a Honda K-Pro ECU, which, if you've ever done a K-Pro before, you know starts its life off as a factory ECU, which then they modify a little bit.
Yeah, 02 to 04 RSX specific.
Yes. And the main reason we're going to the K-Pro is that K-Tune's harnesses are designed to interface with a K-Pro. So this just plugs in, gives us the reliability that we're looking for on this setup. It has a few more features than the K-Tuner does too, but mainly we're doing it because K-Tune has designed their harness to work with the Honda. So it's all one unit, plugs in there, and we know we should have a dead nuts reliable setup, turn the key and go. So that's what's really driving this decision.
Another stop at the old Honda dealership netted us some what size injector CC?
410s, 410s. I was
410s,
wrong.
DP,
I was
410s. RDX injectors can be bought new at your Honda dealership. I think we ended up paying
270.
yeah, around 275 for them. So they're not an expensive upgrade, and they're definitely worthwhile doing because you do not want to run out of injector on this car, especially with these cams. So I'm going to swap these in right now, but I got to get some lube. Oh man.
Look at that blue. It matches your valve cover too, PT. While Pete plugs in the injectors, I'll just show you what Rui's life has become. This is the space of suffering under the dash here.
This is not too bad.
So you've got like a couple of wires here you need to work on,
Yeah,
is that
there's
right?
a few. Yeah, there's like coolant temp, charge light, engine light, obviously, RPM, pump relay, which we kind of tap into the original harness from the car, and we're good to go.
All right.
Well, Rui's done all the wiring, and that means I get to do the easy part and plug the ECU in here. And it is just that simple with the conversion harness. We're done. Bang, boom. Now we just gotta fit this up, but Hondata is ready to go. And now I'm gonna put in this water temperature sensor for our AM gauges that we'll get to later after the exhaust. But K-Tuned, of course, has a perfect provision on the backside of the water neck. This is the ideal spot for it too, because the hot coolant temperature will be exiting the engine. So it will be the perfect spot to get an accurate reading of where we're at. Next up on our sensors is the oil pressure and oil temperature, which Sean took, which I'll show you why in a second. But the K-Tuned makes this amazing adapter. So all you have to do is remove the factory oil temperature sensor and it'll thread into here. And then this threads into the engine block, and you can add up to 3 sensors onto this. So it's a really, really great tool. I wish more companies made this for different engines, because this would have came very handy on my SR. But first things first, the factory oil temperature sensor is right down in this area here. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove it. And then I will show you how it threads into the K-Tuned adapter. Here's our mock-up of what we're gonna do. And as you can see, the K-Tuned adapter is pretty awesome. It is a tight fit down there. So there's gonna be some test fitting going back and forth, trying to make this work. Unfortunately, the AEM oil temperature sensor is a little bit long. I don't know if we're able to cut this down or not. I'm not sure if that's allowable so that it has an accurate reading. So we're just gonna play it safe and put this 90 in. I may have underestimated how tight that space is for the oil temperature sensor. That whole setup I did cannot fit. It did not fit. So version 2 is a remote line coming off the K-Tuned adapter. I know what you're thinking, zip ties aren't the best way to mount this, but for now, this has got to work. If you haven't already guessed, yes, we are building a custom 3-inch exhaust. I actually bought this piping. It's already pre-bent 3-inch stainless steel from K-Teller, and I think it was like 250 bucks. So for the buck, it is definitely some value. It's mandrel bent. It doesn't necessarily look the prettiest, but we're here for function in that sense. It comes with a bunch of hangers and U-joints that we're not going to be using. These are not going to happen. And I think this may be just an extra section or a piece of or a test pipe or something like that. But we are not running a test pipe. We have once again turned to Vibrant Performance for their GESI Cat. This is their ultra high horsepower version. I think it's rated from 500 to 700 horsepower. So this is going to give us the most possible flow while still being emissions compliant.
Holy shit, DP, that's like the dirtiest I've ever seen you. Show me. Looks like you've developed some type of black tar syndrome on your hand there. I was going to say it's like I'm a veterinarian doing a rectal exam here. It's pretty nasty.
That does not look good.
That is what Canadian undercoating looks like on your well-used highway miles Honda Civic. Rui, what magical tool is this you brought out?
A fancy tool to take out rubber hangers off an exhaust, which makes life freaking easier instead of trying to
Look at
grab
that.
it with channel locks
Oh,
or
yeah.
whatever else. And there you go, voila.
It's amazing.
K-Teller exhaust is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Fitment's spot on.
Yeah.
So these guys know what they're doing. They got the piping, the route pretty good.
Yeah.
And now it's just a matter of welding some stuff up, and I think we're gonna, Rui, you said we're gonna start from here first?
Yeah.
In an effort to keep this car more civil than most of you want, I know I want to try to keep it still street-worthy, we've got a 3-inch Vibrant resonator. So now that we've kind of run the midsection here, Rui's gonna break the tack off, and we're gonna fit this up and cut the pipe where it needs to go. Looks like we're using a lot more Vibrant parts than we expected, but they always come through with the little things we need. So we needed some flanges, and instead of getting flanges, what's the best one to get? V-band, baby. So this thing's gonna make putting this exhaust on right here super easy. Wow, does that not look good?
Super stealthy for sure.
I know,
All murdered out underneath the black Civic.
I like it.
Too bad you don't get to run that one.
Ah, what are you guys doing to me? Look at this. This was perfect. Instead, we decided to go with the super loud system, which actually, I don't want to admit, I'm kind of happy about this too, because I do love the turn down system. So this one won by, I think the black one had 74 votes. The chrome one had less than 20. I think it was like
21 actually.
21.
Yeah.
And the turn down was 139.
39.
Yeah, so we're gonna do some bumper tuning here, because right now, with the way the bumper is, the exhaust would be sitting too far back. So we wanna kinda get it just so it lines up flush with the edge of the bumper. So, Rui's coming in, the grinder, of course. Just gonna cut her up.
That's a wrap on another episode on the track built Civic. Gotta say a big thank you to Rui. He's done a bang up job on this exhaust system. Welded in our Vibrant GESI cat and our Vibrant 18-inch, 3-inch resonator. Put in custom hangers. We added in a Vibrant V-band clamp here, of course with our sexy K-Tune turn down muffler.
And it all fits so nicely.
It does, it fits
The
beautifully.
K-Teller exhaust is a good product in my books.
Yeah, it definitely saved us a lot of time in terms of not having to do any bending, any cutting to create bends. It all lined up nicely, and that cam install Rui made look very easy too. I think Pete and I would have taken about 10 times as long to pull that
Probably,
off
yeah.
without any confidence that we did it right.
Yeah.
So his help was huge on that. Anyway, I think we got a little bit more work to do before we head to the dyno, but we're getting there.
I'm liking it a lot. We've got just the right amount of poke. Still got to clock it a bit, but
Who knew that there was exhaust tip poke to go along with, wheel and tire poke?
I know.
Didn't even know that was a
There's
thing.
a lot of poke in life, you know?